welcome to another episode of the RIP Tour podcast. I am your tour guide, Ash. And if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see there's only two of us here today showing up for work, So I'll introduce our second tour guide first, and then we'll get straight into it. Liz, how are you?
I'm doing well. It's a nice afternoon show since everyone else is playing hooky,
Right. This is a weird one, right? Because we're either super early or super late, really.
Yeah.
Or evening. So this is
weird.
This is right in the middle for us. I feel like it was like a compromise.
Yeah, we made it work. It's not, it's not quite dark, so I'm not into my full spooky Liz late night vibes, but it's not 10 in the morning, so I'm happy. And I guess we'll be nice and we won't give Tim and Gary coal this time. So last time it was just the two of us. We gave him a nice little Christmas coal.
We did. That was a fun episode. Maybe we can do it again.
It was so much fun.
Do it again. But yes, no coal this time. So obviously, title of the show, we've done this before, but in this day and age now where Halloween Horror Nights is always evolving, there's always additions, there's always changes. We thought it'd be nice to do maybe a first timers guide or an event guide for again, what I just said basically could be if you're going for the first time. We have had a lot of messages, Liz, on the socials, and we had actually one voice message last week saying they're going for the first time.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is pretty neat. So I think this will cater to, people who've been going for a decent amount of time plus first times at all. So me and Liz, we are self-diagnosed, self-proclaimed Halloween Horror Nights professionals. Yes. That's not an official title. We gave ourselves that one. So again, we've put this together to make your Halloween Horror Nights 33 experience a little bit more enjoyable, hopefully a little bit chaotic, and put a bit of structure around it.
Yeah. So this is just going to help you guys. If you're new to the event or it's your first time, I think this guide will just give you an overview of what you can expect at the event. So at Halloween Horror Nights 33, I can't believe we're on the 33rd session of this, but it's scheduled to run from select dates August 30th through November 3rd, totaling a total of 48 nights. So you have plenty of options to attend if your schedule is flexible. Every event night of Halloween Horror Nights 33 will run from 6:30 p.m. to a 2 a.m. close unless announced otherwise. So we'll get into strategy on that later. But this year's event will feature 10 houses, 5 scare zones, multiple themed bars, and food booths, plus one show.
A lot to fit in.
Yeah, it is.
It is a lot to fit in, and we've kind of held at 10 mazes, 5 zones for a while now. So the fact that nothing's increased in terms of things you can do, this obviously little tips, tricks, sort of synopsis we're doing will probably help a little bit just because it's staying a bit constant. So once again, it's been held at Universal Studios. Now the park itself can be a little bit tricky if you're not familiar with the event, as the queue lines for the houses typically weave, through backstage areas on the way to sound stages or tents. You'll get 2 house portals next to each other and they'll both go different ways. You'll kind of snake back, the exit could be 2 of those mazes exiting at once, so if you're not familiar with it, it can be a little bit tricky. So good to familiarize yourself. If it is your first time, just make sure to download the Universal Orlando app. Unfortunately, nice single tear.
I know, Ash is
rolling
crying
down my face. Printed maps no longer exist. And navigation, again, if you are maybe not necessarily first timers, if you're not 100% familiar with the park, it can be tricky, like we said. So the app's going to be the best bet because there's going to be no physical event guides, park maps, brochures, whatever you want to call them, unfortunately.
Yeah, this will be the first year without that, so it's going to be interesting to see how that works.
Yeah, and just a little bit on that as well. I used to love waiting for the event guides. I mean, during let's say 22 to 22 onwards was more the IP years, unless we had an icon. So it's a little bit of gloss came off it, but I always love waiting for those event guides to see what's on it, and I collect them. So
yeah, sad. I always grab at least one.
Yeah, I grabbed more than one, but but that was everything. Like even just regular, it wasn't HHN. I just grab it if it had like a new Minions ride on it or just anything in general. So I'm sad. But anyway, back to the event. So a scare zone location. We're going to have Duality of Fear right up front at the park entrance. If you did go last year, just think where Oddfellow was up front there. With the, the Production Central area, Plaza of the Stars, wasn't used last year, and it's not going to be used again this year. So right up front, the park entrance, we have Duality of Fear. Making a right there down Hollywood Boulevard, we have Demon Queens. And then keep going straight. You'll hit Central Park for Swamp of the Undead. All right, so stay with me. Looping around through Springfield, across the bridge towards Diagon Alley there. Death Eaters will be inside, so you have to go through to Diagon Alley to see the Death Eaters. And then keep circling around. You're going to hit San Francisco, which will be the Enter the Blumhouse. And finally, again, keep heading straight there is going to be our New York section of the park, and that's going to be Torture Fair. So essentially it's a big circle. Okay. We are missing obviously that one sort of scare zone to the left that you will go down Production Central that we've missed for a couple of years now, but everything's a big loop. And the rest of the areas should be scare free. So if you are chaperoning or you're being dragged to the event, there are scare free areas. A lot of the zones as well, you can go around the outside. Even somebody like myself who loves the scare zones, sometimes if it's really hectic, really busy, I'll walk around the outside too. I'll catch it later when it's, the crowds have died down a little bit. So there are, stress-free, scare-free areas. So, and then the scare zones are usually obviously marked with set decor, lots of fog. Sometimes they'll have rigging up and that'll say the name of the scare zone sometimes. You can't really miss it. A lot of noise going on, and Lizz's favorite scream will be in most zones too.
I was going to say guest screams, but then you had to go there. Not the same. So then we get into the far more complicated description, which will be house locations. So these are usually marked with a marquee sign portal that will tell you the name of the house, and it'll give you a projected wait time for the standard line. And there will be two entrances there, one for express, one for the regular. However, they do not post wait times for express, so you just kind of have to get in line and see what that's going to be once you're there.
Liz, for express, question for you real quick with express. Do you know I don't know this. Has there ever been something said where express will cut I don't know, X amount of the time of the standby line? Is there anything ever been said about that?
I've always operated under the fact that it's supposed to be at least half of what the projected time is, but I don't know if that was ever officially stated. But that's what I've always heard. So if you see a wait time that's 120 minutes, it's not reasonable to think you're only going to wait 10 or 15. You could wait. I mean, I don't think I've ever waited an hour for express, but I've waited 45 minutes before for a really long wait. So yeah, it all just depends on how long that regular line is.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So this might get a little confusing, but we're going to try to move our way around the park. We're going to actually go clockwise this time, so the opposite direction that we did with the scare zones. But that's because the front of the park is much easier to state than the back right now. So starting at the front of the park, the very first house that you'll see upon entering will be Monstros. That entrance should be right at the Minions ride, and should exit over by Jimmy Fallon and Music Plaza. Now, I should say we're basing all of this on previous years. The signs haven't been set up yet, so they could change them, but this is what we're assuming. It'll all work out based on previous years. Then moving forward to Music Plaza, that should be a quiet place where you'll enter the crazy queue line all the way in front of the stage there. And then once you're done with the house, you will also exit between Jimmy Fallon and Music Plaza. There's a lot of houses that dump there. Continuing on to New York, at the Jimmy Fallon entrance, you're going to have Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, which will also exit by Jimmy Fallon and Music Plaza. And then to round out our soundstage houses, we have Insidious, which will have an entrance in New York by the Firehouse closer to Jimmy Fallon, and it will exit there at Jimmy Fallon. And then Triplets of Terror, which will have an entrance by New York, by the Tribute Store, and exit at Jimmy Fallon. So that's 5 houses right at the front of the park, all on the soundstage. A lot of people coming and going. It gets crazy there, doesn't it, Ash?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. Especially with the New York zone these days as well is usually very, very busy. So that whole area just gets crowded. Yep.
Yeah. So expect a lot of bodies, a lot of humans in those sections, especially at those exits. If you're trying to use the Jimmy Fallon bathrooms, good luck because it's always crazy there. So moving around the park, then we have Major Suites, which will have its entrance at the Fast and Furious queue. And this year, it will exit at the Fast and Furious exit instead of back at the entrance. So that's going to be a change for this year. You'll enter straight into the Blumhouse scare zone. So that should be interesting to see how that's
God
going to
bless
work out.
that zone. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be chaos, but not as chaotic as what's probably going to be happening at the back of the park.
Yep.
So this is where it gets tricky because we have 2 brand new tents back there. We're used to using the parade buildings and those aren't in play. So we're not exactly sure how this is going to work out, but our best educated guess will have Goblin's Feast entering there between Nightmare Fuel and Men in Black with an exit over on the other side of Men in Black at the Coca-Cola thing, like where Last of Us entered last year. And Universal Monsters possibly also using that same entrance, filing around behind Men in Black and then exiting at Men in Black and Coca-Cola. What do you think about how that's going to work, Ash?
Yeah, because I'm just thinking, what exited there last year? Darkest Deal, you came out there.
Darkest
right?
Deal and Oddfellow.
Oddfellow.
Mm-hmm.
So potentially, what are we having 4 mazes that leave there?
Yeah, technically, there might be 4 houses all exiting there.
I mean, that'd make sense, right? Because you go in different lines for different mazes, but you sort of congregate back. Same with the parade buildings, you kind of leave and go the same way, 3T. So yeah. I think it's gonna be a learning curve for sure, and yeah, just make sure you do a bit of a stretch before you start walking.
Oh yeah, definitely get your walking shoes. We'll come back to that.
yeah, for sure.
So then at the Men in Black entrance, we're expecting to see Slaughter Cinema 2. That's the normal house entrance. They've used that one for years, and it will exit there at Men in Black and Coca-Cola. And finally, Museum's Deadly Exhibits. If the rumors are true, then this one will actually enter over by Simpsons and then also exit at Men in Black and Coca-Cola. So I could see this working because last year we had the exit for the 2 tents coming out at Men in Black with Last of Us going in. Mm-hmm. With this one entering over by Simpsons, that frees up all of that space for people just exiting. So it does give a lot more space for bodies to leave, but it is going to be so much walking.
Yeah, no, that makes sense with the entrance being a little bit different. So we'd have 4 mazes essentially exiting there.
Yeah.
Which
when we were at Universal last week, I took that picture of the ETQ and I was like, soon. And I realized, no, we won't be walking through there.
No.
I was like, oh no ET smell. I'm sad.
Yeah, because you usually obviously exit and then kind of go right, but they opened the ride sort of entrance last year that you can go through.
Yeah, it was a nice little blast of AC.
Nice little blast of AC, that's right.
But not this year. We won't be there.
No, exactly. So obviously we've done the zones, we've done the mazes, but I know a lot of people like to take advantage of the attractions that will be open as well. So if you do need a break from the scares, or you just want to take advantage of the low wait times, Brick Ride Rocket will be open, Transformers, Revenge of the Mummy, Harry Potter and the Escape from Gringotts, and then Men in Black, Alien Attack. So nice little AC break, a nice little sit down. So if you're struggling, and you want to sit down, make use of the attractions. If you do have express as well, you get it on these express also. So I mean, a lot
Yeah,
of them are low wait times anyway, but
that's a good thing to know though, because these days on peak nights, the rides will have very long waits too.
that's
But
fair.
if you
Yeah,
have express for the houses, it does work for the rides, and I don't think everyone realizes that. So
yeah, and
big
good.
big
That's a good
tip.
point as well. Yeah, because I mean, like Gringotts, for example, I think I've ridden it once before and it was like a 10-15 minute wait, but now Death Eaters are in Diagon. A lot of people
Hmm.
are in there. So now Gringotts is up to like 45-50 minutes on peak nights, So
Yeah,
yeah, good tip.
yeah, exactly. So that's kind of the lay of the land for this year as far as navigating around the park. But in order to be there, you have to have a ticket first. So we're going to go over some ticket options just on a broad level. We're not going to go into the nitty gritty of it because there's just too many options. The prices vary based on day. So this is just your overview. Tickets are available online through the Halloween Horror Nights website or in person at Universal. However, we recommend purchasing your tickets well in advance to avoid having your desired night sell out because, as we know, many nights of this event will sell out, especially in that early September time of everyone wanting to rush to see it and late October when everyone's ready to celebrate Halloween. So make sure to get those tickets, plan ahead, buy early. The single night ticket prices vary based on the day of the week and expected popularity of a particular night. Express passes are sold separately and also vary in price based on the same scale. So obviously a Saturday is going to be way more expensive than a Wednesday, and the later in October you get, the more expensive it gets.
Yeah, I think some of those express passes for I think mid to late October for a weekend. I think with tax you're touching $200.
Over 200 for sure.
Is it over 200 now? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay then. That's like oh, you know what's funny as well, just kind of going over what you just said then, Liz. I mean I've been going to this event now like 20 years or so. I've never ever been to Halloween Horror Nights on Halloween night ever.
Really?
Ever. Yeah, because
Never. I mean,
never,
now
because
I
even
understand.
when, yeah, I mean, even when, because obviously when I used to go originally, and then obviously when we lived in Buffalo, it was just like vacation, right? So you don't really get to the end of Halloween. So I just went the vacation days. But since living in
Mm-hmm.
Florida, and we lived in Florida prior, I'm just burnt out anyway, by the time Halloween night rolls around. But yeah, fun fact, there you go. Never been Halloween night.
Plus, you got the kiddos who are doing trick or treating and everything, so it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So my hands are tied. But yeah, again, a little bit burnt out, a little bit preoccupied. But yeah, so big thing as well is multi-night tickets. What we can, it definitely biggest bang for your buck. So if you are planning to attend the event multiple nights in September, Rush of Fear is such a good option, and it gives you access to pretty much every night in September. But if you are planning to attend the event multiple nights throughout the whole season, then a frequent fear pass is going to be your best bet too. And there are 3 different types of frequent fear pass options. Can get confusing, so just stay in there. Just hang in with me. So again, Rush of Fear pretty much every day in September. And then we have the frequent fear pass, which is opening and closing weekends. Plus you get every night except Friday and Saturdays. All right. Frequent Fear Plus is the one that I have. That is opening and closing weekend, plus every single night of the event except Saturdays. And finally is the Ultimate Fear, which is every single night of Halloween Horror Nights. 33 would be included with the Ultimate Fear Pass. So a good one for the locals.
Yes. Now, as you guys probably know from listening to the show, the express options for frequent fear passes have already sold out except for Rush of Fear. So if you were wanting to add an express pass to your frequent fear, that option is no longer available to you. That's the first year that's ever happened, so that's new. But if you did want Rush of Fear, there is the express option still with that. As far as single night tickets, if you only have one night of Halloween Horror Nights, either an express pass or an RIP tour are probably the best way to see all 10 houses in one night, just because the event's so popular. It's very tough to see all 10 in one night these days. Both of these are pretty pricey options, but it's the only way to guarantee seeing all of it. If you have multiple nights, you can definitely save the money and see everything over the course of your trip, especially if you're willing to wait in potentially very long lines.
All right. So yeah, in terms of the rush of fear, so I know we had some people who hadn't got an express pass. So somebody who's going to the event long term, I know rush of fear with express is available. Is that something? Let's say you didn't get it. Is that something you would do with the express for rush of fear?
So I've thought about this a lot because I've had friends in this situation.
Right.
And if it were me, what I would have done is buy a Rush of Fear with Express for September and just gotten the regular frequent fear, the one that doesn't include Fridays or Saturdays, in order to be able to go in October. And it ends up being just a little more expensive than the frequent fear plus with Express. So that's what I would have done, but I'm a diehard. I want to be there a ton. So some people, it might be enough for them to be there just September.
Yeah, I know it's sad, they get that taken away from them, or that option, or that choice at least. But
Yeah.
I think I do the same thing. At least I'm getting express for pretty much the whole of September. So yeah, I think
And then I just chill in October and eat food and see scare zones and try to run houses when I could.
Yeah, and at that point, you've used all your express in September. You can kind of gauge which are your favorite houses, and some houses you're not too bothered about doing. When you don't have, or you've got to go standby.
Yeah.
All right, so on to you either love it or you hate it. Stay and scream. So before we do this, yeah, right. So I mean, I'm at the sort of age and tenure now where. Stay and scream, just even thinking about it gives me goosebumps,
Start sweating.
Oh, in that baking heat, and it's just chaos once, the doors open. But we'll get into it. We'll get into it, why there's definite pros about it. So one way to avoid long lines is to utilize Stay and Scream. Okay. Now, annual pass holders can access Stay and Scream using your regular annual pass to enter studios prior to 5 p.m. Okay. Once you get to the time where the regular daytime guest has to leave, you'll then present your Halloween Horror Nights ticket as well, to be able to get in to the holding pens. Okay. Non-pass holders can access Stay and Scream as well. They have to have a valid park ticket to Universal Studios for the same night. Or you can get a Scream Early ticket. Okay, so Scream Early ticket is $55 plus tax. All right, so $55 plus tax. And this gives you access to Universal Studios from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. on the same day as your Halloween Horror Nights ticket. Okay, so you have to have the Scream Early for the same day that your Halloween Horror Nights ticket is active for, is good for. And that Scream Early ticket is not an extra $55 upcharge to get into Halloween Horror Nights on top of your daytime ticket. It is $55 for 2 extra hours to be able to get in to that holding pen. So, I mean, $55 plus tax. I mean, that's pretty pricey for an extra 2 hours to get into Stay and Scream. Am I right, Liz?
Oh yeah, it's gone up quite a bit from when they first started offering this, and there's not much you can do in 2 hours, honestly, especially these days. So yeah, it's getting pricey.
Yeah. And that's initially, that's why I prefaced it with, this is not like an extra upcharge on your daytime ticket to get into Horror Nights, because initially when me and my family first did Halloween Horror Nights back in 2003, the people who used to wear the buttons asked me more about Halloween Horror Nights, and if you had a valid daytime ticket, you could then do the upcharge of like, what was it, 20, it might be like 27, 29 bucks at the time, just to pay extra to get into Horror Nights that night. That's not this. This is just to get into the, the Stay and Scream area, or get into the park a little bit earlier.
Right. So you don't have to have a daytime ticket and the Scream Early. This is in place of. So if you don't want to be in the park all day, this is your solution where you get early access into the park to do Stay and Scream, but you don't have to pay full price for a day ticket.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've noticed as well on Horror Night nights, some of the attractions are a little bit lower weight. So if you do want to utilize that, you've got 2 hours to maybe hit some of the, the attractions that are usually longer waits in studios. All right, so once the park closes at 5 p.m., you'll need to choose a Stay and Scream location. Okay, traditionally, they've been in the New York area, usually Richter's in San Francisco. We have Springfield, and then the Today Show Cafe or the Production Central area. Once you're there, you'll be held in a holding area for about 45 minutes, and they'll give you early access to select houses just before the park opens. Now,
and I want to jump in with a caveat to that, because we say 45 minutes as in you arrive at the holding pen at 5 p.m. If you get there at 4 p.m., then obviously you're going to be there for an hour and 45 minutes. So we're saying that they usually let you out around 5:45.
Right. Yeah, again, depending on when you come in, we're just using the 5 p.m. time, which is the cutoff, to let you into those areas. And then you'll be led to a specific house to start the night. Once the park is officially open, then you just kind of join the rest of the crowd. You know, you have access to go wherever you want. Keep in mind, though, certain houses won't open until 6:30, even if the park opens early and even if you're in the Stay and Scream area. Now, for the Stay and Scream, it's very, very popular in the modern era of Halloween Horror Nights. So you might need to come early because especially those New York areas, they're usually the bigger IPs, and you'll start lining up for that house in Stay and Scream.
Yeah. Remember the old days when we just showed up and hung out in Finnegan's and just had a drink and chilled in the AC, and then we all just like walked peacefully to the house?
Yeah, and to be honest as well, Richter's, there was a queue last time I went there, but Springfield is usually just chill, you know, because when they open that, it's usually like a big line, and it's kind of like bodies left and right of each other. So to have the best sort of relaxing time, Springfield's probably the best area. But if you're going to be there for like one night, you're trying to rush and get everything in, New York for sure, because you'll have those big, you know, big IPs. So yeah, you might need to get there as early as 4 p.m., you know, especially the New York ones. And you want to be, you know, towards the front of the holding areas there. Now, here's the big one. You know, we don't know what these houses are going to be for Halloween Horror Nights 33 until opening night. Okay? Especially the new setup for the back of the park, so the Springfield area, if they are going to use it, I assume they will. You know, what is the layout going to be there? So Liz, if you know, somebody asks you, hey, what's your best guess? Because do we have the anchor IP? I mean, which one of those 3 traditional IPs would you say is the anchor IP this year?
I mean, based on location, hasn't the Music Plaza house usually been included? Was Exorcist last year included?
Exorcist wasn't it last year, because me, Brady, and Tim ran it, and it was one of the best
that's right.
runs I've ever had in a house. Like, I'm not saying it's the best house ever, but the best runs through a house ever I've ever had, honestly.
So there's usually 2 to pick from in New York. So I assume A Quiet Place and maybe Ghostbusters?
Possibly. Yeah. Again, pure speculation. We don't know.
Yeah. Purely guessing. Like I said, we don't know until opening night. We really figure all this stuff out, and everyone's posting on social media, and we figure out how all this is going to work. So yeah, I would say Quiet Place and maybe Ghostbusters for the front. Major Suites for sure for Richter's. That one's easy.
Yep.
Then the back of the park.
Coin toss, you know.
Yeah.
It's because they're all
should be
together. Should
be Slaughter Cinema or museums, right?
Museum, isn't it usually if the entrance is going to be there, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So again, remains to be seen. But
and then I guess Today Show and Production Central, do they all go to the same house? I would assume that would be Monstrous, if so.
Yeah. They don't always do.
I've never, the only time I've ever done Stay and Scream there was during the American Horror Story years, because that line got so crazy. So I would do Stay and Scream there, but I haven't done it since. So I assume it would go to Monstrous.
Yeah. And that's a good one. Like I just mentioned before, it's a good one for those one-nighters or those who, you know, want to get everything done, because, you know, one of those IPs is going to be the standout wait time. You know, whether it's going to be Ghostbusters, Insidious, whether it's going to be A Quiet Place. So, yeah.
Yeah, and if you're not planning to utilize Stay and Scream, then we definitely recommend getting to the gates early, to see the opening ceremonies and get in that front spot. So you're some of the first people pouring into the park that night. So each night there's a little show that they put on there at the front gates. We assume this year will feature Sinister and Surreal, who are our iconic characters or our mascots this year. We assume with the walk over the Halloween Horror Nights sign that they'll be out there representing the event and welcoming you to the fog. And also, while they say that the park opens at 6:30, oftentimes it opens earlier than that. So like I said, plan to get at the gate early because they might open 6:15 that night and you'll be ready to go going into houses before everyone else who thought it was going to open at 6:30.
They do that a lot too.
Yeah, it's often. Yeah. So it was always a downside if you're doing Stay and Scream because you're like, wait, no, I want my extra time.
We just wait in the baking heat.
Don't let them out.
I guess they did too, though, to be fair, right? But just outside the park.
Yes. So we also recommend making a list of the houses and scare zones you most want to see and prioritize those. Make sure to look at the Universal app to check wait times. So that way you don't have to like zigzag all around the park to try to find out wait times. So they're on the app. They're usually fairly accurate. I can't say that they're 100% accurate, but they're not bad.
Yeah.
And then our other big tip for this would be if you can't get there early, or if you can do both, stay late. So I'm a night owl, maybe not as much as I used to be, but I always like staying late because the later you're there, the better chance the lines will drop. And I can't say it's empty, but last year there were quite a few nights where after, especially 12:30, 1 a.m., the original lines dropped way down. So we're talking like 20 minutes for the originals. The IPs were still very high, but you could knock out a bunch of the originals right at the end of the night if you had the ability to stay until close.
Yeah,
which Ash does not.
Nope. It's a nice segue, actually, because that is my idea of hell, is staying that late. So a couple of things in here. Opening ceremony. If you are at the gates watching the opening ceremony, send me a video because I'll be at Strongwater or Hard Rock or Dead Coconut Club. So send me a video.
Dead Coconut.
Yeah. So I will not be standing outside that gate in, feels like of 102 with my, so I'm not. So send me a video. Yeah, if you see the opening ceremony. Yes, for the night owls, great tip for sure because, the last couple of hours, houses are definitely a lot lower than the majority of the night. So you won't find me there after 12 typically because I've used my express, I've done my 10 or I've done my, house I want to see that night, and I'm on I-4 westbound traveling home. So, but definitely good tip for, people who don't have express or want to get some speed runs in at the end. Mm-hmm. Now, we're in an age now of horror nights where there's so much extra stuff you can do just beyond going to the event, doing the mazes and the zones, it's just, we've got so much added, it's evolved and grown so much. So first one is something I truly, truly love and enjoy. It is our Unmasking the Horror Tours, the Lights On tour. If you do want to take in all the detail of the houses, get more info on the backstories, the creation, we do suggest booking an Unmasking the Horror Tour. 2 options. There's going to be a 3-house tour or a 6-house tour. With prices, they do vary. This year, the 3-house tour are Slaughter Cinema 2, Museum Deadly Exhibit, Triplets of Terror. I know these opened last weekend, so, people have already seen this 3-house tour already. And the 6-hour tour, which I'm doing at the end of September, is going to be Goblin's Feast, Universal Monsters, Eternal Bloodlines, Major Sweets, Candy Factory, Insidious, Monstrose, and Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire. So Liz, talk to me about Unmasking the Horror. It just kind of elevates the sort of story, right?
Yeah, and I've only done this once. I did one in 2012, and then for so long, I either lived in the area and felt like I was getting so many house runs that I didn't really need to spend the extra money, or I was coming on vacation and just didn't have the time or wanted to save my feet for being at the event and didn't do a tour. But this year with that 3-house lineup, I am very tempted to do a tour because I think these three are on the top of my list, and I want to know more about the lore, which is the real big perk of this is you get to go scene by scene, see the Easter eggs, and learn a whole lot more about the story than what they're giving us on the website these days.
Yeah, I've done, what have I done? I've done 21, your favourite year, I've done 21.
Oh, yes.
Did
That would have been amazing.
25. Yeah, I did 21, 25, 30. I had the ticket for 31, but if you're listening, Luke, I'll let Luke go. He played for me, and I went last year to 32. But here's what I would say, though, about Unmasking the Horror these days. You know, back when I went in 2021, like walking through the Forsaken, for just an example, right?
Mm.
It gives you more of like the creative and scenic side and how they do it in the more technical side. But now in this day and age, it's a whole story, it's whole lore and history and story they add into it that you don't really get at face value walking through the maze. So they are so much more detailed and intricate now than they were maybe like 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think you just sold me. I think I need to do one of these.
Yeah.
I think it's time. But that's not all. There's a whole lot of other extras out there, including this year, if you're staying on property or just want to go visit the hotels while you're at Universal, they're adding hotel bars. So at Aventura, Cabana Bay, and Endless Summer Dockside, there will be Halloween themed bars. Now, Cabana Bay has had this for a while, but this is the first time we're seeing Aventura and Dockside added to the mix. And for everyone who knows me, I love my aliens, and Aventura is getting an alien themed bar. So I am super excited for this one. You know, RIP, shed a tear for my aliens from Dead Coconut from last year. Hopefully they're there. They've beamed over to Aventura and I can visit them there. So this is a nice little feature. And if you're not staying on property, but you want to arrive to Universal early, you can go visit the resorts and check out the bars by taking Universal transportation over there. So it's a good way to relax before a night of Halloween Horror Nights.
And then, just with one as well, Liz, just with it, before you go on to the next one, the hotel bars.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously, for example, I'll take the Swizzle Lounge at Cabana, right? So, it usually has, obviously, like the pumpkins on. You know, we had like a Wicked Grove sort of theme going on. They always sort of jazz it up with something Halloween. But I don't know what I'm expecting. Do you... I'm trying to... How to word this. Do you think this... if they're doing a hotel bar Halloween theme, do you think they should go a bit above and beyond? Or I know it's tough because Swizzle Lounge is not very big anyway.
Yeah.
And it's right there in public view. You know what I mean? Like if kids are walking past or whatever it may be, you know, it's right. You don't go in the door. It's right there, you know?
Right.
So I don't know what I'm trying to say because I don't know what I'm expecting, but I feel like it's just a little bit of decorations and that's really it. Some themed drinks. But I know Gary one time mentioned the Cabana Bay conference room that we've had like Chucky there, Jack there, you know, just create like a bar, you know, like a big
lounge.
Yeah, like a full lounge that you can maybe sort of elevate it because you literally have to open doors to get in there. So, you know, a 5-year-old who might be terrified from something at the Swizzle Lounge because in plain view, it's now hidden in like the conference room upstairs. So I don't know. I
think that's a really good idea that they could certainly explore, especially if these are popular. I mean, obviously Swizzle is very popular, but if this works out, they sell a lot of Halloween themed drinks, maybe they'll keep expanding on it. And if you do want a heavily themed lounge, then I have the place for you. It's the Dead Coconut Club over at City Walk. And we don't know officially what the theme is this year, but they put out banners this past week, and it looks like it's going to have something to do with the Vamps, our good old Vamps, and Blumhouse. So I'm going to pause there for a second. I'm sure you don't feel as strongly about this as I do, but what do you think about this potential theme?
It's a bit of a strange one. It's a bit of a strange mix. If they'd have kept it maybe just Vamp or just Blumhouse, maybe. I know you're not.
That would have been my nightmare.
Right, I know. We're going back to Vamp. The Vamp decor is going to come from that universe, you know. So 4th time going back to Vamp. I don't know. Blumhouse. I know you're not.
Yeah, I know.
You're not too fond of that.
Sure not.
I know it's so funny as well because Drew obviously saw the Blumhouse sign and he said, I'm going to call that part Bargool. Uh, so that tickled me a little bit, but
Okay,
yeah,
that made me happy.
yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna let you. This is your domain. This is
I know, this
your
is my.
hangout spot. So you do the talking.
It is. I saw a picture that someone posted, so I got a little teaser of what's inside, and I'm feeling a little more optimistic now that I've seen that because I do think it's going to be kind of dark vampire vibes and not super cheesy vampire vibes. So I still have hope for it, but personally, Dead Coconut is one of my absolute favorite places to visit prior to Halloween Horror Nights. Last year, it operated as a lounge from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. And then it switched to a club atmosphere at 9 p.m. until close. So for that first chunk of time, it was last year had a 50s, 60s tiki vibe to it. So it had kind of creepy tiki music playing until 9. And then at 9, DJ, pop music, craziness, dancing, wild. But the first part was very chill and relaxed. So I'm hoping that even with this vampire theme, that the first half of the night will still lean into having a cozy lounge and then go to a club later on. But we shall see once the event starts. So I will say that this gets rented out for events sometimes. So you have to check. Last year on Google was the best place to find out whether or not it was going to be open. And they did update their hours every week on Google. So check that before you go because sometimes it's closed for a private event, but otherwise a fantastic place to hang out.
Yeah, if you can't find Liz, take a look in there. She's probably in there.
Good odds.
Yeah. So let's move on to one of my favorite things, merch, and then the tribute store as well. So the tribute store is going to be everything. It's like your one-stop shop. Everything's going to be in there. All things Halloween Horror Nights merchandise. This tribute store will be located in New York again, across from the Torture Fair stage. And the tribute store, it's come a long way. It's come a long way since Halloween Horror Nights 25, where we had the Aftermath store sort of decked out, and we're probably going to do something about this, but the Aftermath store that year had so many Easter eggs and so many props in from different years. Really, really cool. But we've gone from that small store to, a 4-5-roomed, fully themed, immersive, but more importantly, scare-free experience that shouldn't be missed. It's almost like you're walking through a haunted house, because it's that detailed and intricate, and they put a lot of love into it, but there's no scares, it's just, essentially it's merchandise, but jazz it up, and they're almost telling a story from room one until the exit. And it's not just Horror Nights, they do some Mardi Gras, holidays at Universal. We have a summer tribute store, 3 years in a row now. So, if this it's like a year-round sort of thing, and they always give little Easter eggs to the next store, which I absolutely love. So yeah, definitely check out the tribute store. Obviously, inside you'll find every piece of Halloween Horror Nights merch available at the time. Beware, some items do sell out, but most will come back throughout the event. If you are there on a short weekend or maybe a one-time, one-day trip, if you see the merch, just you want it, buy it, because they do sell out. And if you can't make it, there's always the Universal store on the way out of the park. You'll have most, if not all, of the same merch as the tribute store. It's not themed. Sometimes they have little theming, and a lot of the items are available online as well to domestic and international guests also.
Yeah, that's always good if you forget something. Or sometimes if it's a size sold out in the park, they might have it online. Like for instance, This year, I got to the park a little late. I did want one of the shirts that they came out with this year. That's kind of like the main logo. And in park, they only had smalls and extra smalls left, but I checked on the website and they had my size. So always a good option to check on the online store.
Yeah, the only thing about the online store is you don't get your discount. That's the only thing. I know the discount isn't huge. I think it's we get 15%. Even with the premiere, I think it's 15%. But
sometimes
if you are
it's 20, it depends.
Yeah, but if you are a team member who gets that 35, just know that the online does not have any discount available.
Yeah, so it's a good thing to know, especially if you're making a large purchase. You might want to wait and do that in park. But the final thing that's taken over the event in recent years has been the themed food booths. So we've already seen them popping up around the park. We have Insidious, we have A Quiet Place, we have Ghostbusters, we have the Carrie Drive-In. We don't have menus yet, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We're waiting. We cannot wait to make our food list too. But these highly themed food booths offer delicious options, sometimes more delicious than others. You never know. But they have smaller portions, so they're easy to grab and take in a line with you and enjoy while you're waiting for a house. Some of the staple event offerings that we would recommend are always the Twisted Taters, which we already see there's a food booth for the Twisted Taters so far. The pizza fries have become obviously Halloween Horror Nights lore amongst themselves. The s'mores fries have been delicious in the past. Don't know if those are coming back. And of course, we all have our favorites that have been at the event in the past, and we don't know if they're returning or not, but always good snacks to try while you're at the event. You can also find themed treats at the various bakeries around the park, so don't forget to check out the Today Show Cafe. And also over in San Francisco this year, the candy shop there already got themed to Major Sweets. So that candy shop is themed with the house that's right there. So that's exciting. I like when they do that. Yeah. And of course, the Tribute Store also has a ton of different goodies too. So check in there. And it wouldn't be dining at Halloween Horror Nights if you also didn't have beverages. And of course, one of the main collector's items from Halloween Horror Nights is a Blinky Cup. So there are signature drinks served at all the different food booths. And if you're getting the alcoholic beverage, that comes with a Blinky Cup. And each booth typically has a drink that's themed to that booth, but certain ones do repeat throughout the park. These can be a bit sugary, but there are beer options as well, and plenty of non-alcoholic options as well.
Yeah. I always look forward to see what the Blinky Cup is, seeing what the reusable freestyle is. You know, yeah, we have all of them behind me, like on the floor there.
Mine are all in storage, but I do have Blinky Cups going all the way back to 2005, so quite the collection.
Yeah, it's got to be done. And I'm so surprised as well. We haven't seen a menu. What, we're 13 days away?
I know.
So
last year they had that food event, so we got spoiled getting the menus really early. But this year, I'm dying.
Yeah, I need to know some of the unique ones to these. But I love this. I mean, Universal. I don't want to keep mentioning other events, but again, even like Mardi Gras, Holidays at Universal, the food booths and the sort of options, they've really, really upped the game.
Yeah, they've really leaned into this. And I think it's a great addition because sometimes the restaurants can be packed and the food lines for the food booths can be long sometimes. But in general, after opening weekend, they usually have it down to a science and they're churning people through. So it's a nice option to just grab and go.
Yeah, agreed. So I think that's it for the sort of nucleus of the event. Cover pretty much everything. There, what to expect. Now, we do have a lot of tips, for long-time goers like ourselves. So firstly, plain and simple, the weather. Florida weather's so unpredictable. It's storming 1 hour, it's completely dry, sunshine, 100 degrees the next. So it's going to be hot, plan and humid. So plan comfortable outfits that breathe and can handle that near probably 100% humidity at that time of year. A handheld fan or portable fan, or the ones people wear around the necks now, are definitely a good option to stay cool. We don't want anyone who's suffering from heat stroke in those long queues. A lot of those queues are outside. So you're in the elements there. So just pack and plan accordingly, especially for the weather.
Yeah, and dress accordingly because I think some people travel in and they see, it's going to be, it'll still be 85 degrees at 11 p.m. And I think one of the trickiest things about Florida, as we just experienced last week at Universal, is it'll be kind of nice and breezy at 7 or 8 p.m. And you're like, this isn't so bad. And then all of a sudden 10 p.m. hits and the breeze dies and the humidity goes up. And somehow you're pouring sweat at 10 or 11 p.m. worse than you were at 8. So we just want everyone to prepare for the heat. Yeah. And one of the best ways you can prepare is to hydrate. So Water is free at all of the Universal restaurants. You can just ask for a cup of water. The free cups are small, but they are ice cold and refreshing. Otherwise, freestyle cups are your friend, especially if you're partaking in the Blinky Cup refreshments. So if you do have any sort of cup, any sort of reusable cup that you're bringing to the park with you, you can get free water from the freestyle cup machines, and you don't have to pay for that as long as it's water. So that's a big tip. Bring your own cup. It has to be empty when you enter the park, but you can refill with water all night long, and it's gonna save you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, especially if you're drinking alcohol too. You know, you need to you need to be chasing it with water. Stay hydrated. Absolutely. Third one. I feel like even going over this is not going to jinx it because it happens so often anyway.
Oh, it's gonna happen.
It's going to happen. Plan for rain. Not just rain. Plan for torrential rain. Plan for rain that comes sideways and backwards. That comes from the ground up. Just plan for whatever rain it could be. So if you're traveling, pack more than one set of shoes.
Do it.
And socks. Honestly, if they get soaked, it just ruins your night. You know, blisters and all sorts of chaos down there in the shoes. You know,
Tim got wrecked opening weekend last year, didn't he?
Yeah,
his blisters. Oh,
really, really bad. So yeah, and it just ruins your night. You know, so and then recommending ponchos over umbrellas. It's just difficult with it, especially the event now. It's just so busy. Ponchos are probably a little easier to save your sort of attire, probably not your shoes.
yeah.
But you know, but they also as well be aware that if it is raining pretty significant, it does mean scare zones will shut down until it's safe for the actors' return. And even if the weather's not too bad, but lightning's in the area, they'll do the same thing a lot of times too. But they will return, you know, once the weather's eased off, they will return. And sometimes some of the mazes will close too, weather permitting. They have done a really good job now, especially the back houses, the tent houses, to have sort of a platform. It's sort of like a latticed, I call it like a rubbery platform you're on now, because it used to just be wading through puddles, literally. You know, potholes everywhere. You know?
Unfortunately, the two tents, the original two tents, do sometimes flood themselves because they are not on a platform. So every once in a while, they will shut down if we get a torrential downpour. But I had a very memorable night in 2012 waiting for Penn and Teller back there at the tents, where I was standing in calf deep water when lightning struck the main lagoon. It was wonderful. So yeah, it can really downpour. So speaking of those shoes, make sure to bring multiple pairs, but also wear comfortable shoes. I know it's spooky season. We all want to be out there in our best fits, but your feet will thank you if you wear comfortable shoes, because you will be walking most likely anywhere from 6 to 10 miles per night, maybe even more this year with those new tents. And I think people think, oh, it'll be like a regular park day, but it is so much more walking. If you're zigzagging around trying to get lower wait times, trust me, you will thank us if you wear the comfortable shoes walking through those long and winding queues.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, just don't worry about the fashion, you know, when you're Horror Nights, wear a comfy pair of shoes. I've seen people in heels, you know.
Oh man, I've seen girls in pain.
Yeah. Oh, I just want to give them a big hug and say, you know, well, what are you thinking? You know, so
if I see heels, I'm like, this is your first time. It's gotta be, because there's no way you came here knowing what you were getting into wearing heels.
Yeah. Yeah. But next one, I would shout this from the rooftop if I could. Know the content, you know, intellectual properties that come, you know, you're walking through essentially, whether it's, you know, a screen accurate pulled from the movie or TV show or game, whatever it may be. Sometimes more an original take where you'll get a bunch of scenes or Easter eggs, but know the content. You know, this year we have A Quiet Place, Frozen Empire, Insidious, Blumhouse, even the Universal Classic Monsters, you know, RIPs. So to get the full experience walking through these houses scare zone, make sure to familiarize yourself with the stories and scenery of these properties. I don't know how many times people have said to me, I wish I would have watched that before I went, and then you're watching it after the event and you can't really get a good gauge on, whether that would have made the house better or maybe made it worse. I don't know, but know the content. Yeah, and you've got 13 days if you
you've got time.
13 days, yeah. That's 5 Insidiouses. How many Blumhouse movies are there? About 20.
Okay, well maybe not all the Blumhouses, but you've got time for the Insidiouses at least.
The ones on the poster, maybe.
Yeah. Those are the important ones.
Yeah.
But also there's information that they can learn about the original houses as well. So some of these have official podcasts from Universal with backstory produced by creative themselves. So far this year, those include Major Suites, Goblin's Feast, and Universal Monsters Eternal Bloodlines. There is a podcast for A Quiet Place, but it is spoiler. I don't know if it's spoiler filled, but it has spoilers. So I have not listened to that one. But these that I just listed for the originals are spoiler free. They're just backstory and lore for the houses. So we highly recommend listening to those ahead of time just to give you a feel for what to expect.
Yeah, these are really good to give some context to, because I'm not saying me and Liz are old, but when we, back in the day, we had their website, right? What give us a little bit more, a little bit more information, and we had to, solve puzzles. I remember a Carnival of Carnage website where you had to solve thing, and you got the Nightmare on Elm Street maze, little snippet video, stuff like that. But I guess this is now the newer version of getting the little bit of extra info, is just kind of plugging in, listening to that podcast to get a bit of extra information. And they're usually pretty good quality. The stories are not always fantastic. I don't really make the story any better, in my opinion. But there's been a lot more wins that they've had, in my opinion, and the quality is usually very good.
Yeah, I was hoping for more. We still have some other originals out there, some scare zones. I feel like we're running out of time. We might get one more, if that. I'm a little sad that we didn't get more this season, because I would have loved one for each one, but glad to have the ones we have.
Yeah, it would have been ideal. I mean, they usually come out on Fridays. I know this season's been a bit more up and down, but I can imagine maybe getting to this Friday, maybe we get the menu and maybe they do a food episode. I don't know, but that's what I can probably see or imagine there. So, and then finally, you know more about yourself than anybody else and know your limits. There's no official age restriction for Halloween Horror Nights, but it is recommended for individuals over the age of 13. If you are traveling with children younger than 13, the event might be too intense for them. And again, case by case basis, you could even watch vlogs, to get yourself, get a feel for the event if you're a little bit unsure, or maybe it's a little bit too extreme for the younger ones. Gary and Liz, I've watched theirs multiple times over, have YouTube channels filled with vlogs from previous years, and we're talking all the way back since, what's yours, 2011 was your first one?
I mean, technically I have videos from 2010 and 2011, but 2012 was the first year I really started vlogging purposely, not just taking, family videos of the event. So, yeah.
So, yeah, that'd be cool to give yourself a little, familiarity with the event, and you can see how the event's changed over time too, which will be pretty cool. So check those out as well. Well,
and this year we've got to plug our own YouTube channel, because if you're already watching us on YouTube, we will be vlogging at the event for the RIP Tour podcast YouTube channel. So if you want to see event vlogs from all of us, those will be an option this season as well. Obviously, if you're waiting to not be spoiled, then you'll have to wait till you're home to watch what we're filming. But we will be out there filming and posting vlogs on our channel.
Yeah, some really cool opportunities this year. Something that we may have not done before too. So very cool. Yeah, very cool. And
very
then,
so.
Go ahead, Liz.
Yeah, I was going to say, and if you're out there in the park, this is kind of a bonus tip. If you see one of us tour guides out there in the streets, in the fog, you come up and say hi to us. We will have buttons and stickers to give to you. And as we say on our show often, we always do a password of the night. So if you follow us on Twitter, especially, we'll try to remember to do it on Instagram as well. We will post what that password is for the night. And if you come up and say hi to us and give us the password, you will get the chaser button. So it's kind of a fun way for us to get to know you. It kind of breaks the ice so you don't feel weird coming up and talking to us. Like, we're ready. We're going to have our buttons. We're going to have stickers. We're ready to greet you guys in the fog and kind of put faces to the names and get to know all of you.
Yeah, I second that too as well. You know, we've met so many people out there in the fog, and there's never ever been an interaction that's been awkward or strange, or you know, where we haven't welcomed that person and vice versa, and then we end up talking about Horror Nights for like 20 minutes. So
Always.
always welcomed. Cool. So that's pretty much wraps up this, but we do want something from you guys as well. We are inviting listeners, you know, whether you watch on YouTube, listen on the pods, or if you've seen it on Twitter, Instagram, wherever it may be. Next week is probably the last episode before we start. You know, we're going to do It has to be, right?
Yeah, we're out of time.
So we're going to do a Q&A. We'll do a question and answer with all yours as questions. So it could be anything, you know, advice, attending the event, if you want to know more about us and our history, or anything in between, you know, tips or anything like that. It's your chance to ask questions and interview us. You know, we're usually the ones sometimes bringing guests on and grilling them, and you know, we want that in reverse this time. So questions, whatever it may be, we'll be happy to answer anything.
Gary posted that earlier today, and we've already gotten multiple questions in on the voicemail. So you can call in and leave us a voicemail. I think that information will be on the information of this video. Now I'm going to get better about adding that in. Or you can just, you know, tweet us, send us a message on Instagram, comment on our post on Instagram. We've already been getting questions coming in, and I can't wait for that episode. I feel like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is, because I'm sure we'll have to vet the questions, right? But
right.
I think we should delegate maybe one person to do that. That way, you know, a lot of the questions are coming in blind.
Yeah, I like that.
You know, I think that'd be good. So it's just one person who knows. I guess they can prepare their answer. Everyone's going in blind, but that's pretty much it. You know, we wanted to get this out. Reason being, it's just changed so much, probably from the last time we did this. And I know a lot of people like to get little tips and tricks and, you know, how would you do this? How would you do that? So anything else to add, Liz, we may have missed?
No, that's all I can think of for now. But if we missed anything, leave us a question and we'll answer it next week.
Yeah, the event's so broad now that we probably, but we maybe haven't mentioned it or not sure, right? So definitely reach out.
5 hours talking about it if we went through every little detail and all the prices, and there's just so much.
Yeah, but no need to prolong this one. So this is our penultimate episode before, you know, we do that final Q&A, and then that's it.
Spooky season.
That's it. Spooky season starts. So Liz, you're the only one here. So
I guess it has to be me.
I wanted to end the talking so I could, you know, pass it over to you. But please let these lovely people know where they can find us.
Of course. So you can find us at RIP Tour Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. You might already be here. If so, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, all the good things. We have a Discord, which I know we've been more active in. We've been having some chats. I know it's going to be even more active once spooky season's here. We can all talk about our favorite houses and zones. And of course, we have a spreadshirt, which I'm actually wearing one of our new designs today. So if you're watching on YouTube, I love this design. So I ended up getting both of the new ones for the season. So you'll see the other one next week, but yeah, we got some cool new shirts and hats and all sorts of other options on there.
Very cool. Very cool. So yeah, so that's it, guys. Again, just make sure you get those questions in. We'd love to have, you know, a bunch to answer next week, but that's it. You know, we're going to see a lot of you guys in the fog very, very soon. We cannot wait. Yeah, check us out on all the socials like Liz just said. But from us, goodbye.
Bye.